All right, welcome back. So today, in our Extra AI podcast series, I'm going to have an interesting conversation. Of course, all my conversations are take the audience in different aspects and different dimensions of what we do. And today's conversation is going to be about. I know we talk a lot about AI. And there's a lot of things that are happening around it. We want to talk about how AI that actually saves time, which is where I know we do a lot of conversations, we do a lot of tools, a lot of things. But today, I'm joined by Marvin Martinez, who works for the service companies to implement AI-driven systems that remove repetitive work and free up to at least 10 to 30 hours a week without adding any additional headcount. So basically, trying to adjust with the resources that you have and other things. I know this is a different kind of a conversation. We are getting into the services business, and I think Marvin, you are from Central America, so I want to get to that audience, and we want to talk a bit more about. And welcome on board, Marvin.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be a guest in your podcast. I really hope I can add some value to your audience. Thank
Great,
you.
great. We have audience across the globe, and we have I have speakers from across the globe. So I always love to have conversations with people from different hemispheres and different parts of the globe, because that's how we get the much needed perspectives across the globe, how AI is being used. So maybe without much further ado, let's get started. I would like to understand your journey, Marvin, your personal or professional story about how you got into AI systems or automation, something like that.
Yeah. So about me, I come from 13 years in operations. Before, I used to work for service companies and I know the insights in and out, like from the entire process, hiring, quality, IT, like the whole chain in the process, right? So that I have a lot of experience in operations. And then I used to build processes, SOPs, and with all these AI boom and tools and new systems and everyone talking about it, I came to realize that you can execute a lot of those processes using AI. You
Mhm.
can actually turn those workflows, those SOPs, into systems that run independently, alone, as long as you have a very nice overview on what needs to be accomplished every single time. So that's when I transitioned from being an operator into the founder of Bandsaw AI. And today, what I do is to speak with other fellow business owners and help them understand where AI can actually save them time, money, and reduce errors. Because most of the time, people are talking about AI tools, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, but they use those tools, but still it becomes an expense rather than just a saving.
Beautiful. That's some great background and great experience. I think coming from a different world, I believe understanding the processes, and now you want to see how these AI tools can really help the customers and help the service companies. I know you often talk about, I know you have done a few podcasts as well. So you often talk about saving 10 to 30 hours per week through AI workflows. Uh, Before we actually get into the real conversation, I wanted to ask you, like, what types of work are companies actually replacing or automating today from where you come from and what you've seen? Uh,
From my experience, the work that's being automated is that work that is repeated every day. Let me
mhm,
give you some examples. We have companies responding to leads every day. Leads going to the website, filling out a form, and then boom, someone needs to get in touch with them via email, text message, phone call. So that's something that happens every day. So that's one very simple and a very nice use case for using AI. Scheduling appointments. you can have the AI calling people, right? And asking them, hey, are you available this time or this other date? Or even sending reminders for upcoming appointments. This is for clinical, dentists, doctors, fitness coaches, etc., etc. Following up, if you have a process in which you send a reminder to a customer and then you have to follow up with that customer 5 days after, sometimes it's tricky to have that customer on your mind, and
Mhm.
that process needs to take place. So why would you have to be thinking about it if you can have AI taking care of that? And the last one that I can think of that is very, very useful and most business owners don't know is just moving data from tool to tool. Think
Mhm.
about someone getting a new client and onboarding that client into your system. So you have to send an email, like a welcome email. Usually, you
Right.
have to put that person in your CRM, whatever CRM you use, Monday.com, Salesforce, Airtable, whatever, right? Then that person will go into a Google Sheet. Then that person is going to go to finance. So you have multiple systems that are not talking to each other. And that's a very good opportunity to just connect the dots and use AI where applicable to ensure that you are saving that time. And most importantly, reducing the errors.
Mhm. Beautiful. I like the way you have put it across the various types and various categories of work, which is being now automated. I shouldn't say replaced in the sense. I think, of course, you're automating the process with these AI tools, and people get to do other things or other tasks. So let's now get into the actual meat of our conversation. Let's get started into the AI adoption and workflow automation. So I would want to get a bit into this. I know the last 2 3 years after the explosion of ChatGPT and other things, now uh, these AI tools are everywhere. Earlier, it was like only a an enterprise company, or maybe a realistically well-known software company, or the geeky world people might have known. But now, the last 2 3 years, it's been everywhere, and people, like you mentioned, people can use left, right, and center the Chat GPTs and the Geminis of the world. How do you help companies distinguish between using AI tools and actually building AI driven workflows that create real value? Because using the tool is one thing, but actually creating value, right? I think is that is where the actual effort lies, or actual saving lies for the end person, right? The
Yes, that's a very interesting question. And let's think about this. I
Mhm.
would like to talk about when adopting AI, I always like to talk about three different concepts. The first one is tools. You already mentioned them, something like ChatGPT, instantly AI, whatever tool that comes to your mind, right? The
Mhm.
other thing is workflows, and the other thing is AI agents. So how does a company know, what should I put in my business? And right now, I want to tell you what's the difference between all that. Um,
Mhm.
when you talk about tools, these tools are isolated. Think about this. You go to ChatGPT and you enter the following: hey, I want to reply to this email. So you get the email content, you copy paste it into ChatGPT. ChatGPT draft a response. You like it, maybe you don't. You ask for tweaks, and then just put the response back into Gmail. So ChatGPT in this case is a tool that is not connected to anything.
Mhm.
Now, when you think about workflows, that's when the thing becomes interesting, because it is putting together those steps,
Mhm.
right? And like, again, right, I want to talk about when a lead comes in, it gets processed, AI calls them, qualifies them. If they are qualified, then they are sent to a sales specialist for closing the sale. But there's a process involved. Step one, two, three, four, and so on. That's a workflow. And when you talk about AI agents, imagine a workflow that runs itself and that can take decisions. So
Mhm.
it's like you telling someone, hey, these are the criteria that you can use to make a decision. If a lead comes in and these three things happen, you can automatically put that person as a buyer, for instance, right? So AI agents is giving the agents the access and the tools they need to make decisions on their own and on your behalf. So when you think about those concepts, the real value comes in when you connect everything into one place. But for doing so, companies that are trying to implement AI and that fail are companies that they know this exists,
Right.
but they don't have a process in place.
Right.
And this happens to me very frequently when I speak to business owners. I tell them, hey, what's your thought process when you want to sell someone, right? What do you do first? What do you do next? What's the third step? And most owners, they don't even know about that. So that's when they fail. When they want to put AI, either tools, workflows, or even AI agents into a process that doesn't exist, right? So my recommendation for business owners right now that want to implement AI or are thinking about this, try to think, how does my process look like? My recommendation, just put that process in a map, like a mind map, and then start from there.
Right. I know you're coming from these service-based businesses because this is where the the world is too big. There is so much of service-based businesses across the globe, and that is where I think you're trying to answer or trying to solve the problem there. Because, like you mentioned, there are some uh, businesses, some service-based businesses, there, which is where uh, uh, there are things that you have to do, but like you mentioned, the owner may not even understand. There are some tasks that come uh, in a very discrete fashion. So how do you make them and understand that, hey, this is the complete process? First, understand the process and then put the tool and then make sure that how you can increase the productivity and reduce the cost. So that's how you're trying to do. So let us now, I know for service-based businesses, especially because that is what we want to focus on, what are some of those highest leverage processes, like, or some of those highest leverage that you can have during the processes where AI automation can immediately create some or value or deliver impact right away?
Good. Let me give you a real example of
Mhm.
a process that can return or that can show a return of investment really quick, right? And what I like to focus on is a lot of managing leads, because at the end of the day, your leads are the ones that are generating revenue.
Mhm.
If you don't answer to a lead in the right timing, the lead may go to a competitor, right? So imagine this. I talk to the owner and I tell them, hey, when a lead comes to you, what is the first thing that you do,
Mhm.
right? So um, think about systems. That's what I always tell them,
Mhm.
right? And think about that process that is taking you the most time, right?
Mhm.
How long is it taking you to go back to the lead? How much time are you wasting, you being the owner or maybe your manager or your salesperson, right? That are not using in something that's generating more revenue. So a lead comes in and you can have an AI system that gets the information from the lead and enriches the person. Nowadays, you can have a lot of AI tools that from your LinkedIn, they can understand who you are, your experience, what company you work for. So you take all that information, and based on that, you can actually qualify the lead, right? So, for instance, Raghu is the owner of a company that has a size of more than 10 employees. Then yes, it's qualified. So instead of you doing all that, you can have the AI agent do it, capturing the information, enriching it, qualifying the information, and sending an instant response to the customer. I think that AI will not do 100% of the job. That is not true. AI will take you 80% there, right? So it's going to tell you, hey, this could be a good lead. and it's going to notify the team. Someone reach out to this person, please, because it's a person that we should be looking after, and then logging everything into the CRM. So that process that I just described is usually what people are looking me for the most, because the lead is where you get the ROI very, very easily. I have saved, or I have spoken with businesses that were losing 2 to 5 leads because they were not responding on time. So it was taking them like a full day before they could even respond. And it was because they had so many leads, and most of them were not really good leads, right? But that's the important piece, going back to them quickly. And that's an example of a proven like system that can drive money back. In my mind, again, you as the owner, sit down, think of the process, put it in a piece of paper, and if it's taking you time, then we can automate it. If you are doing it every day, then we can automate it. And whatever time that you save and you, uh, you know, uh, like delegate that to the AI system, then you can invest it in something that's going to drive more revenue. That's my advice 100% of the time.
I know service-based businesses, I think specifically, like you explained, the competition is huge and competition is fierce. I think, like you said, I think if you cannot capture these leads, or if you cannot capture the information that is needed, you can quickly lose the business. Or if you can get it at the right point of time, you can make a lot more at a much more faster. I think let's now get into this aspect of now that we talked about how and where it makes sense, I would want to understand a bit more, and we want to get into the aspect of the business problems and why AI projects fail. Because I know now in this world of in this age of AI, many of the businesses, small, big, and small, medium, and big, every business, I think, whether it is a digital transformation business or a manufacturing world or service-based businesses, everybody understands like what is happening. They want to implement or use some kind of AI now. But one topic which is irrespective of the business that you are in, one topic you have, I think even in your talks or in your podcast, you've been highlighting that many AI implementations are failing. What are those most common mistakes organizations are making when they're trying to deploy AI? I know you're coming from the service-based businesses, so maybe you can talk in that perspective. Why these things are failing?
When I think about failure, I think about three main mistakes, three common mistakes that a lot of people, including myself, did at some point. The first one is starting with tools instead of problems. And with this all AI hype, particularly Cloud Code, OpenClaw, anti-gravity, you will see a lot of owners that just want to get in, right? And they start thinking of tools, but that's the wrong approach. You have to think about problems. What's your problem today? Are you not generating enough leads? Maybe your customers are saying that your customer service is not good enough because they are waiting a lot of time on the phone before they speak to you. Um, your problem is that it takes you 2 hours to do a lot of admin stuff that is not adding value. So you start by identifying your problem that repeats every day. And that's not what business owners are doing. They are thinking about the tools they are going to use because they want to look fancy. That's one of the mistakes that you should avoid. The second one, where I see a lot of businesses and business owners fail, is when they try to automate everything at once. So maybe they know they have problems, they have 2, 3, or 5 identified issues, and they say, let's automate everything, right? Let's have AI do the sales, do the customer service, do the admin stuff. And that is not how it works. Even if you identify multiple issues that can be automated, you have to start with the simplest and the one that's going to give you the highest return of investment. Most people don't think about it this way, and when they try to automate everything, everything breaks. So that's the mistake number two. And the mistake number three, that's very common, is not having a clear success metric. So I have AI, I put AI in my process. How do I know it's working?
Right.
Most business owners, they just feel good because they implemented AI at some point in their business. And maybe it's just their employees using ChatGPT. But the real question is, what was my before state and what is my after state? So before, it used to take me 24 hours to respond to a lead, and now it's taking me 1 minute. So that's where you see your metric. What's your metric? And a lot of owners, they don't have that in place. They just implement AI. They speak with agencies, and they don't really know if AI is working or not. And last but not least, not originally in my top three mistakes, but I keep seeing it. People implementing AI when they don't have processes. AI will only amplify what you have. It will not resolve your issues. If you cannot generate leads, it doesn't matter what AI tool you use if you put it on top of a broken process. If you have no idea what's your framework for providing great customer service, even if you use AI will not fix that. So a lot of business owners implementing AI without having a clear process, that's gonna be a mess. I can guarantee you, I've seen it. So how do you identify your first AI opportunity? Well, I try to keep it simple. Identify the work that is repetitive every day. Measure how much time you are spending in that process. Look for your input, your outputs, and lastly, prioritize based on impact and simplicity. Four simple steps that are very clear to do, very simple to do, and it's just a matter of, if you want, just putting pen and paper and, just taking action on that.
Right. I think it's great that you've brought up all these points together, the four simple steps on how do we handle it. Because irrespective of what kind of business you are in, it's not that those tools that are important, like OpenClaw or Cloud Code. I know these are beautiful tools. You got a lot of tools out there. But like you said, I think first you need to understand the process, and then you need to also get into the actual metrics. What exactly are you measuring, and how do you improvise that or address that? I
If,
know. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, if I may add something, I was
Yeah.
speaking to a colleague one of these days. He was a business owner, friend of mine, and he was like, "Hey, Marvin, have you heard of Paperclip?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've heard about it." He goes and say, "You know what? I have an army of AI agents," and he had like 7 different AI agents, and they are working for me. And I have a CEO AI agent that hires other agents,
Right.
and it sounded cool. And I was like, "Oh my god, it looks great." Now the question is, how much money is that saving you?
Yeah,
He didn't know how
exactly.
to answer, right? And that's a common mistake.
Using too much of, I think you need to know how much of automation you need to do, how much of agents you need to use. You don't need to use a hammer for everything. I think it depends on what kind of thing that you need to use. I think this is where I want to get into. I think that is the reason maybe many of these projects fail in the experimentation phase. I think because many companies they start with this experimentation, but again struggle to show this ROI. I think this is exactly what you're alluding to when you're talking about your friend. I think this the business owner. So what is that framework do you use to identify the first workflow that is worth automating? Like I know you briefly talked about it, but what is that? Is there a framework or a methodology that you would like to think or use when we talk about that? When you talk with the executives or the operational leaders, what pain points do they need to do? How do they need to start with?
Yeah. So the first step I would say, and I would recommend, is from a framework perspective, speak with the owner. So the owner sits down,
Mhm.
looks at the vision, and think about how AI can help.
Mhm.
At this point, they can also have a conversation with their operators, because
Mhm.
one thing is the owner, the founder, right? That they know where they want to go. And then we have the operator who does the job. They know the ins and out, right? So they get together and they start mapping the process. I use I don't typically talk about tools because I
Mhm.
like to talk about how we actually implement solutions rather than tools. But for this one, I think I use myself a tool that is called Miro board. It's just a drawing board tool with little boxes that you connect together. So that's the first step. And you're going to have a conversation with people. Once you have that map, that graphic, then you can say, in this entire process, this is where AI makes sense. You can ask, or you can have the owner or the operator just describe it like, in this process, where do we keep ourselves busy? Where do we invest the highest amount of time in this map? Where are the things falling through the cracks in this process? Maybe we're not keeping up with the follow-ups. Maybe we're not keeping up with the customers that are coming in. Or the last question they can ask in that process is, what do we need to do to grow? Because we have enough volume of work, but we cannot do it because we're just human. And where can I implement AI in that map that's going to make a difference? For me, that's the framework. Always think about the process. Just map it, do a step 1, 2, and 3, and that should make it. And you will be impressed. Sometimes doing little tweaks in the process, it changes everything. One time I was speaking with this business owner, and he was explaining to me his process, which was a little bit complex, I will admit. But when we were mapping the process out, AI was only going to be used in 10% of the process. So think about this, 10 steps from the very beginning to the end. AI was going to be one step only out of the 10. That's why, again, it doesn't matter how good your AI tool is if you don't know where it fits in your entire process.
Beautiful, beautiful. I like the way you have explained, because when you sit and talk with these business owners, so I have a follow-up question with this on this, right? I think from your experience, I know you say that you talk with these business owners, sit and map out the process, like explain and then understand and then put where this AI gets in. So what types of these repetitive tasks are still consuming a surprising amount of human time in these service organizations, like from your experience, because when you sit and talk with them?
It's three. It's three. The main one, or the easiest one, customer service. People come in, they can either call you, they can chat with you via your website or any other platform, maybe WhatsApp, Telegram, whatever platform that you have, or even email. So that's one of the main processes where AI makes sense, because you can give AI context on your business. That's what we call a rack system. We give all the database knowledge of your company, your website, what you do, how do you manage your customers, and then boom, AI will answer your customers 24/7. Again, AI doesn't have to do 100% of the job. If it's an issue that requires escalation, that's fine. We involve a human. But customer service, it's one of the first use cases where AI would make a lot of sense, and that it's easy, right, to implement. The second one is the speed to lead. I know that I've talked about this a lot in this podcast, in this episode, but this is what I'm seeing the most. Owners, especially those service businesses where they have to be on the field. Think about roofers. Think about locksmiths. Think about those type of businesses where you cannot be on the phone the entire time, right? So I'm seeing people getting leads, phone calls, and just losing the customer because they don't respond back. So a speed to lead and getting back to that prospect that's on the line, that's a second use case. And for me, the one that is present the most nowadays, and the one that can give you your money back instantly. Just to give you an example, and I just want to make a parenthesis here, I was helping a locksmith, and his service call fee was $150 just to go out and look at the issue and so on and so forth. He was missing one call every week because he was doing some other work. So when I was speaking with this guy, he was like, "Yeah, I don't lose too many phone calls." But if you think about it, $150 per week, it's equal to $600 per month, which is about $7,200 per year,
Mm.
just by missing one phone call. So
One
that
phone.
speed to lead process, right? Like going back to the customer and saying, "Hey, I'm busy right now," and having AI doing this, it's what gives you more value. And the last one that I think, and that I've seen a lot, driving value is reactivating all databases. So, you may have a database of 500, 1,000 customers that's sitting there in your CRM, but the last time they used your service was months ago.
Mhm.
So I have seen, and I have helped companies implement systems that reach out to those dead leads,
Oh, okay.
not leads, but previous customers, to try to reactivate them and say, "Hey, you know what? We noticed that the last time they use our service was this month or
September.
this date. We have a special promotion for you," right? So, and this is another example. I was speaking with another company, like a very small business that was starting.
Mhm.
His service was worth $50. It was just uh, it was like a food service, right?
Right.
And he had 1,000 customers in the database.
Mhm.
So when we were talking about this system, if we were able to reactivate only 5%
5%.
of
Mhm.
that 1,000, that would mean 50 times 50 per service. So that's $250 right away with something that doesn't take too long, right? So AI can make a lot of sense as long as you have a clear process in mind. So to sum it up, three scenarios: customer service,
Mhm.
chatbots, or email responses;
Right.
second, speed to lead; and third, lead reactivation in your database.
Right. Right. So yeah, customer service, I think I know many of us already are aware of it. The speed to lead and the lead reactivation, I think these two are very, very critical. I think in today's conversation, I'm understanding that how important it is for service-based businesses that they do not miss out how they can reactivate. For example, you're talking about the food service and how they can reactivate and then generate a lot of these, reactivate some of these old customers. And then the other example you gave of the locksmith thing, right? I think today morning, I think before the podcast, a couple of hours back, I think I had some small little uh, incident and I had to call a service business. I think, like you mentioned, I think they might have had this kind of a AI service already embedded in that. So for me, the lead, the way they reacted was pretty fast. I think I called them like I think within a 15 minutes I got the response, and then within an hour they showed up and they fixed the thing. I think so. I get what you're saying. I think the speed to lead is very important in this fast-paced world and how they are using AI. So I could see that in live example for me today morning. Great, great.
Yeah.
So let's continue further, but before we continue further, I want to ask this question, right? Like, how do you, when you talk with these business owners, or because there are like different kinds of business owners, from small to medium to large, and the way they have their pain points, how they explain, uh, what are those things that they usually describe before they start investing in this automation or AI? What are those things?
So they know they need AI, but they don't actually say it,
Yeah.
with some typical phrases.
Right.
One of them is, I need to grow, but I don't have the budget to hire someone,
Okay. Okay.
right? So we know the business is there and they want to do more, but they don't have the manpower,
Mm.
right? So you implement an AI system that handles the heavy part, and boom, you grow. I am a solo founder,
Mhm.
meaning that myself, only me, to start, I manage my new customers. I manage outbound systems to get new customers, LinkedIn automation, I manage my customer service. I manage my proposals. I manage my phone calls. Like I do everything because I have AI systems in place that
Mm.
help me do what
Mhm.
takes the most time,
Mhm.
right? So that's one thing they tell me, hey, I want to grow, but I don't have the budget to grow. So an AI system makes sense right there. The other thing that they say, man, this is taking me forever. And I feel that I'm investing a lot of time here and I don't go anywhere. And when you are just starting in the business, sometimes you have to do maybe your social media posting, maybe you have to respond back to customers. And those are little things that are important, but they will not drive your business further, right? And think about this. I had an owner that I spoke to like about 5 to 6 months back. And he said, you know what? I have like 60 podcast episodes,
Mhm. Mhm.
like you, right?
Mhm.
And then they said, and I know I have a lot of content, but I don't even know how to polish that content out.
Right.
They were spending a lot of time editing the video clips, just extracting the best moments, like moving that video into their social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and that's exactly is the pain point. I want to do so much
Mm.
and have so many things to do, but I don't have the time,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's the other word that they use. They don't say I need AI.
Mm.
And those are the main two, to be honest with you, that they typically come up and say, oh well, there's a third category.
Mm.
I don't believe that much in that one, where actually the the person comes back to me and say, hey, I need to have AI in my business. And I tell
Mm.
them, hey, well, that sounds great. How do you imagine yourself AI in your business? And they go, I don't know, but I know that I should have it, right? So sometimes they know they need to step
Grow
it
their
up.
business. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
but they don't even know how. And that's where I go in and help them, right?
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think I like the way you have explained all these three different categories. And then the first example which you gave about yourself as you started as a solopreneur. I think this is what on the All In podcast as well, Chamath keeps talking about how these uh, AI tools and this in this agentic era, how solopreneurs can the rise of solopreneurs is happening quite a lot because of the emergence of these AI tools, how well you can quickly start something, how well you can quickly scale. And then of course, then you reach some kind of a stability and then you can hire more people or something like that. Great points. I think you raised some very important points. With that, I would want to get into this maybe get into this topic about the real solutions and the AI systems in practice, right? I think I want to get into some. Uh, I know generally with my audience, what I try to do, I don't want you to. You don't need to tell the names of the customers or anything, but maybe if you can explain or walk through a real example of how you helped in a workflow automation system or how you have improved a particular process. If you can do that, I think that will be awesome.
Yeah, great. So this was one of my most recent customers. This
Mm-hmm.
was a company in the transportation and logistics business,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I talked to this guy, he was telling me that he has one operator guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me, this guy is working 7 days a week. And it was like all from a conversation, right? And he
Right.
was like, yeah, he's just working every day, even weekends. And I think I'm gonna hire someone, but I don't have the budget. And then after the conversation, uh, I came to find out that this company had 46 vehicles with
Okay.
46 drivers,
Wow.
and each driver was doing about 5 to 7 trips every day.
Mm.
So just do the math. 46 times 7. So it's about like it's over 150 trips every day. So what
Right.
this person was doing, this operator, he was writing down every trip from every driver, from every vehicle,
Oh
from their
man.
CRM
Mm.
into a Google Sheet,
Mm.
which then they use to pass it on to the finance department. for all the billing and all that finance process. It was taking them 3 hours every day. Every day they were doing the day before, compiling all the information, and it was taking them 3 hours. So what I did was to sit down with him, sit down with the operator, and we went through the entire process together. I was like, okay, how does the driver log the trip? Where does he log the trip? In which system does the information fall? How do you pull it up from there? And we did this workflow that show us a step by step the entire process. With that in mind, right, we implemented the automation using the workflow, and one or two kind of places where AI made sense. Not the entire workflow. About 20% of the workflow.
20%.
So, and it was a custom solution, right? It was not a system that happens everywhere. It was just a solution for him. So after that implementation, the entire process that took them 3 hours, now it's taking them 15 minutes tops. So they are saving 2 hours and 45 minutes every day. Plus, they reduce the errors nearly down to zero because AI and the workflow is just moving everything together. So, almost 0% of error pretty much. And now they are using that time and they are investing that time into marketing, into ads. And now they came to me and say, hey, Marvin, now because we're doing ads, we're getting more customers and we need a proposal generator. So that's the next step, right? Which I'm working, which I'm gonna work with them. So it's like, think about this: 2 hours and 45 minutes. If you do that times $30 an hour, just do the math, right? So it's crazy.
It's amazing. Crazy. I think you were able to explain and give the example and also explain the metrics or the measurement, how this overall automation is helping the end user or the customer in increasing their business and reducing their costs so that they can do a lot more business. I think beautiful. So let's get into, maybe if you can quickly talk about how does a typical AI automation stack, the stack look like today when deploying these systems. Could you give a brief idea, like how does this automation stack look like?
Well, that really depends on the AI automation or the automation that you use, but there will always be your input. It could be your CRM. Think about WhatsApp, emails, forms, whatever tool you use to capture the information from customers. You're going to have your workflow engine. Before, the most popular one was Zapier, right, for integrations. Then Make.com made a boom. But nowadays, in my tech stack, I use N8N a lot for the backend automation.
Beautiful.
So that's the workflow engine. Of course, you're going to have an AI layer at a certain point. You can use Claude, OpenRouter. If you want to have different AI systems or AI models, you can use Claude. You can use Perplexity. Like, it really depends, right? But you have an AI layer out there. And nowadays, some vibe coding tools, meaning, Lovable.dev, maybe Base44, maybe Anti-Gravity, Claude Code. That's basically my main stack. I want to say, keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
You don't need high-end
tools. Yeah.
Exactly. You just need whatever it takes to automate the process that takes you the most time. Now, the tricky part is, how do you identify?
Yeah. How do you?
That's going to be the tricky part. Right?
Beautiful. And that is where I think you come in, and then you understand the business, and then maybe use the appropriate or the right tools.
Exactly.
Let me now, it took a while for me to come to this question, but I think, but I term this as the XTrawAI question, the $1 million or the $1 billion question. I know there's a lot of competition out there. So what differentiates a practical AI system that saves time from an experimental AI project that never gets adopted? Uh, like a practical AI system that can really save time from an experimental system that never gets adopted. What is that differentiation factor that you can show, and then how you people, I think you folks, deliver that?
Well, that's a good question. For me, the difference is very simple. Practical systems um, are tied to real workflows and clear outcomes. You should say, I know that by implementing this, I'm going to
Mhm,
save X amount of hours every day. Or I know that if I have this workflow implemented, this is going to get me 5 new customers every month,
mhm.
right? For me, that's what practical systems do. Experimental projects, is those are disconnected from daily
Right.
operation, right? So they may say, "Hey, I heard about this tool, GenSpark, from instance. I heard about
Mhm,
this guy talking about this. Hey, um, I found this tool, GenSpark, that can do this, can do that, and that's fine. There are tools that are very useful. I'm not saying it, you know, I'm just admitting it. The problem is that if it is not connected to your daily operation, it's gonna
mhm,
be a failed experimental project or just what it is, an experiment. There was this tool when I was beginning. Um, it was my first month, and I got
mhm,
this tool. I see a lot of advertising and saying you can have a team of 12 AI agents just for $99 a month,
mhm.
right? And I was like, oh my God, like 12 AI agents, that's crazy. And they were talking about copywriting, they were talking about admin, they were talking about customer service. And at the end of the day, it was just like a custom chat GPT for every thing. Again, it's not that it's not okay to kind of experiment with tools, but if you really want to look at the revenue back from what you spend, think about how those tools fit into your process and daily operations. And when you do that, you're gonna be successful.
Beautiful. I like the way you have explained that. And then I know we are almost at the top of the hour. Before I let you go, I think it's a great conversation. I have a couple more questions to close this out. I know there's a lot of automation and a lot of innovation happening. So, looking ahead, how do you see these? I know the amount of agents coming in are a lot more. I think at every business, every process, I think it's enhancing with that. So looking ahead, how do you see these AI agents and automation systems evolve in the next few years in these kind of service businesses that you are predominantly focusing on?
They will only get better. Let me tell you. I think that what has made these tools and AI agents is how more simple they
Right.
have become to implement. Let me tell
Mm,
you, I don't have a technical background
mm,
whatsoever. I was not a software dev, or I was not, a JavaScript specialist or guy. But you know what? These AI tools make it very simple for you to think through it, and
right.
then ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever, you can ask them questions, send screenshots, and it's gonna help you out to just do what you want to implement. So I see AI tools helping service business grow a lot, but the key is gonna be, again, right? How well your processes are defined. Number
Okay.
one. Number two, how much are you into AI news? But not hype, just the actual news that
Actually.
matters to you, right? And if you can hire someone, or you can have someone in your team that can work as an AI implementator, for me, that's the way to go. Because with so many tools, so many things, you have to identify which ones are worth trying. But if you are not on board right now with AI,
Mhm.
you will be at a great disadvantage.
Beautiful. I completely echo your thoughts on this. I think because there's the tools and the agents and these things are going to be more and more. So, but I think understanding the process that you are trying to adapt or how improvise, and then you will, and that is going to be more important.
Correct.
Finally, before I let you go, I think any one or two top recommendations that you would give for companies that want to start using AI for increasing their operational efficiency, and then if they need to follow your work, if you want to shout out for your work or follow what you're building to learn more about you, what is that you would,
Yep.
where they can reach?
My top three recommendations is start with one workflow, one thing at a time. Keep it simple. Not everything. Don't try to do everything at once. Otherwise, you
Mhm.
will fail. Number two, focus on repetitive work. Don't start with the complex stuff. Just do that little teeny tiny thing that happens every day, and you're gonna be saving a lot. And three, tie everything that you do to a measurable outcome, something that you can say, this was our before, this is our after. And with that, you're gonna be successful. And if you don't know where to start, well, obviously, that's what I'm here for. My company help growing service companies save a lot of time, up to 30 hours per week. And the most important part, for the proven systems like lead generation, customer service, we can help you implement AI solutions in just 10 days. Now, there's a lot of companies that can help you with AI solutions. The difference is going to be how fast they can help you. And at Bandsaw AI, we can do that in just 10 days. That's part of our that's part of the help that we provide.
Beautiful. I think amazing talking with you, Marvin. I really understood, I really got a lot from the service-based businesses and how AI is enhancing these service-based businesses for the small, medium, and large enterprises there as well. Thanks for your time.
Good. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Marvin, thank you once again for joining us today and sharing such practical real world insights on how AI can truly drive efficiency and free up valuable time in the service businesses. It's been a great conversation. And to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in to XTrawAI. We hope you found this discussion insightful and relevant as you navigate your own AI journey. Stay tuned for more engaging and thought provoking conversations with leaders and practitioners across the AI space. Until next time, this is Raghu Banda signing off. Happy predicting the future with XTrawAI.